get all our friends around us and we'll sing a song together.
I want to be for my body, nobody's body but mine. You run your own body, let me run mine. And again, my body's nobody's body but mine. You run your own body, let me run mine.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Pedos Down Under radio podcast. My name's Steve McMurray and I'm with Fiona Barnett. And this is a new podcast that we're starting together. Fiona, do you want to tell us a little bit more about Pedos Down Under and Pedos Down Under Radio and what it's all about?
Yeah, sure. Well, as a bit of a joke, I used the title Pedophiles Down Under when I did a bit of a web page last year. Well, I actually did it, I think I did it in about, when I went to the Royal Commission about 2013, and I went public to protect myself and my family. And so I used that title. And then when I decided, when I went before the press conference in Sydney last year, when Bill Heffernan got up and, said that there are a number of VIP pedophiles that he had information on from the police, and there was a Prime Minister's name on that list and all this sort of thing. I decided to bring the website up again, and it was just easy to go with the old name. And then after I appeared in that press conference last November 2015, well, I kind of went nuts on social media, and now I'm stuck with that name. And it's become, as Nikki Davis says, it's become my brand. So that's it. We're stuck with that one. So we figured, well, we'll just name the radio show Pedos Down Under Radio. And but we've decided to do our own show, haven't we? Because, well, I've done quite a number of interviews, and you had your Virgin interview, didn't you, recently?
Yeah.
And you must have enjoyed that a lot. So you've taken to it like a duck to water, really.
This is going to be the first episode, obviously. Now, your Pedophiles Down Under website has exposed a lot of pedophiles, and we aim to do the same with this radio show and podcast. So people have a lot to look forward to there. But not only that, we'll have, very interesting guests on who sometimes may be victims, and we aim to educate people about this story, how they've dealt with it, and how that information can hopefully help victims as well. So there's multiple things that we're trying to achieve from this, but mainly I think one of the things that will really be done is an expose on the New World Order from an Australian perspective and from the cult of pedophiles perspective. So we'll learn more about it that way.
Today we sat down and spent a bit of time with Tim Roy. Tim's authored a few books, and one of them is Little Tim, Big Tim, and he is a victim of the VIP pedo ring in Sydney that I was a victim of, and he also has served Australia in the SAS, and he is very articulate, and he is one of those who said to me, when I've posted a lot of his stuff, and his response to that was, I've got my voice back. And it's very important for victims to feel as though they have a voice. And otherwise, you find victims' mental health declines quite rapidly if they're shut down and they feel frustrated as though they can't say anything. But the opposite happens if they're allowed to voice what's happened to them, if they're allowed to just talk about it and feel as though they're being heard. It's very healing. It's instantaneous, the sense of relief and healing, and that's what you'll see in this interview we did with Tim. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Absolutely. It was a great interview. After we've done it, I could really see a difference on Tim's face, and it was really good for him. And that's what makes me happy about it. In a way, that's success for me and what I have to do with this podcast. But there'll be many more to come, and many more interesting guests, and a lot of information, and a lot of people exposed over the coming podcasts.
Yeah, we really took down 2GB in this episode. So
we won't like this one.
yeah. We're all. I think the three of us better install camcorders in our cars after today's little interview.
I'll be looking over my shoulder, that's for sure.
We're all going to
This
be
thing gets popular, we're all dead.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to update our wheels. So no, it's good. I mean, it was a bit it was a different sort of interview. I've never done something like that, and there's some funny moments, and I think we sort of acted as though we're all sitting around having a drink at the pub. To be honest,
Yeah,
it wasn't
that's
really
what
it was.
It was a friendly chat. Yeah,
It's a very friendly chat, and got out of hand at times, but it all came good in the end. And you know, we'll just see how it goes. There'll be times when we can't really have a chat like that with guests, but this you can with Tim. He's a funny guy too. He's got a good sense of humour. Yeah, welcome to Pedos Down Under Radio. We're calling it that mainly because, as Nikki Davis said, that's our brand now. So I started the name Pedophiles Down Under just like as a joke, and it's stuck. So it's going to be on my gravestone now. But this is...
Well, like you can have that.
They'll just never find your body.
No.
There won't be a gravestone.
I intend to see my people in the future put pus on their gravestones.
Pedophiles under stress. Yeah. That's his catch.
I don't use pedophiles. I find that the public hates the word. Right? They shut down. They don't think. It's just too much for them. Right? So we, as people who want to be respected, we need to be respectful, and we need to understand that is a calamity between all types, conditioned types, Christian types, locals, internationals. The word pedophile does not officially help people who are trying to fight them. Because they know it.
So that's unfortunate that we chose that as our name.
Yeah, well, that's your name.
Anyway, we better tell everyone who what his name is.
Hang on.
Well, I haven't introduced
Oh,
you.
yeah, I'll get there. Plus, P-U-S. Pedophiles under stress when they're alive. And as for my old man and all his mates, pedophiles under surface. Pus, dead or alive.
That's what he likes. So everyone, this is Tim Roy.
Yeah.
Tim's the author of 2 books. One is Little Tim, Big Tim, and the other one is Switch Me Off. Now, Little Tim, Big Tim.
No, verbal.
Oh, verbal. Yeah, okay. Well, Little Tim, Big Tim is about Tim's experience of a VIP pedophile ring in Sydney. It's the same ring that abused me. And his experience of ritual abuse also at the hands of some big names. And then the other book, Switch Me Off, is about Tim's experiences serving in the Australian SAS. And do you want to just tell people, because there will be people from England and America who don't know what that Special Forces branch is. So.
All right. I'm very well aware that the letters SAS itself, put in a search, can bring up my stuff. So I don't label it as the SAS. In Australia, for those people who want to know what I'm talking about, I refer to it, the lads in the West, myself in the West, or the West. West Australia being understanding what West is. And that allows myself not to feel like I'm engaging men who've done their time for their country to actually be pulled into this sort of stuff, because I'm not being smart enough not to make sure that searchers don't go looking for them in this comment. So I don't use it. And I talked to all my friends. I was in the West. Over in the West, we did this. And I'll leave it at that.
And the SAS is one of the most elite military units in Australia, like it is overseas. And I mean, anyone who serves in that, in my opinion, is an Australian hero. They give up so much to the country. They are one of the best defences we have. And no one can argue with that. So, you know, that's really amazing. You know, that's a real success of yours, Tim.
Yeah, I also think that because we live with what I will say, pus in charge, that we're having a competence now between the military and the army. That's why the cafe that went off in Sydney was rubbish.
Oh, the Lint Cafe siege. I had a chat. I've got a friend who was in that siege, And I know some of the inside information about that siege, and it was just disgusting. I mean, I kept on saying when I saw it, I knew someone was dead the moment they went in there and started. How many rounds of bullets just like, you know?
It was like watching a bunch of kids heading up at the firing range with live rounds. It was like watching that chick in the shopping centre, you know, pulling her gun to save herself and injuring 3 people with ricochets.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use them, don't give it to them.
No, the police are notoriously bad shots because they're not taught. They
don't have enough
when they
training.
shoot. They haven't had the training from the beginning.
No, you'd have to put police on 12-hour shifts to actually get a competent police force. Because then that third shift can go to training. And we can actually feel safe if they actually do draw their weapons. But presently, they, and I will put this down to the rabbit, Mr. Rabbit with the ears, who used to be top of the bunny pile with all his bunnies. Well, he was very much a staunch, you know, anti-terrorist, no boats nonsense, all that sort of thing, right? But he neglected to tell the future Prime Minister that he's actually allowed to pass the emergency action, which happened at the cafe, the Link Cafe. He's actually allowed to pass that information and responsibility to the military. So we have a Liberal Party that is actually hiding information from each other and getting Australians killed.
Because they could have called the SAS and taken that guy out in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
They had a clear shot through the window. And it's not like chocolate cafes routinely put up bulletproof glass. So...
Yeah, they could have shot right through that real easily. And
the boys had done 6 hours rehearsals and not got used. And then when we do rehearsals, we do it. It's just go until you get on the chopper to go do the job. But this is no call. And this is what the Australian public needs to know. You're allowed to call your military to save your civilians. And I can say that, Steve, because I created a bloody fiasco when I came out and told them they were training with automatic weapons over in the West. That's what caused the actual, you know, the conspiracy I own today was trying to cover that up. I mean, only me in Australia has a conspiracy and tells people about it.
So, Tim, why don't you tell people, just because there are people who haven't read your book and there are people who need just a very basic background. So why don't you tell them just a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up, and then we'll go into your VIP abusers and your experiences of ritual abuse in Sydney.
Yeah, well,
Derek.
What I want to do is basically, I've got the book, Little Tim, Big Tim. That is, you know, evidential reference, I feel. No problems there. I've got the statement from the police. They actually believe me. Like, I was bounced from the Royal Commission to the police. Spent 4 days over 2 years telling the story about VIPs. Right. So presently, I'd like to just keep those things in house. And let's just work on that little area there, because my life has gone
Too many stories.
Exactly, and I don't want to overwhelm people and, you know, get them thinking, well, you know, what's you worried about? It's a great life.
Yeah, we can always do another show. So start with, you know, the basics, the beginning.
All right, but the best way to explain how to deal with these when you have mental health issues is that the police want you to come from a younger age forward, right? And when that happened to me, that all of that content itself started dredging up other things from the police. But I couldn't give them that as an evidence because it was still scattered in my mind. And I have always been a proponent that I put honesty down in front of me, and you can go and chase it up, you can smash it, you can bring it up against people. And I'll tell you, there's not a pedophile in this country that is better than me. I've lived my life, an honourable life, just so I can say that to people, right? So basically, the people you're protecting are mere men to me. They haven't achieved shit. All they've done is made $1 billion out of stealing from Australians. Whereas at least I know I'm going to be grey with honour, and I can help Australians understand that about themselves and find a way to honour this situation. And that is protect children. Protect children and the vulnerable.
That's it.
Nurture children and the vulnerable. As an adult, that is the only responsibility you have on this earth. As a male, you're meant to protect. As a female, you're meant to nurture. If you're getting both of those sorted out, you're running the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
what about your? Tell us about your dad. And he
Right, my old
worked
man-
with Derek, didn't he?
Yeah, well, we started with Derek. My old man worked with, I believe, Gordon Moyes and him worked together as guards. And in that role, they were VIP.
Traffickers,
Yeah, more,
Facilitators?
what have I called it before?
facilitators.
Procurers.
Oh, procurers.
Yeah. Okay, so within his social club, which was the Freemasons, he decided that he was engaged by the Freemasons to run around and bring children in for rituals. Now, he brought me in because I, as they will say in the Christian world, was special. The only reason I was special is because I forgot, right? I dissociated. I learned to just not let that happen the next day. All right? Whatever happened there didn't happen to me. It happened to my brother. My brother would tell you it happened to him. My other brother would tell him it happened to me. I don't know what fairyland you're in. It didn't happen to me because my brain needed to dissociate it. So it was too overwhelming.
Now, Tim, when you say Freemasons, I do know what you mean. Fiona's talked to me about this before. I guess we're talking about a criminal organisation here. Not just, I guess, am I right in saying it's not just Freemasons, but it's other people as well that are connected by criminal behaviours and occult ideas?
Now, see, what happened, Steve, is I found the diaries of my fathers.
Yep.
And they were letters to John Laws. I can say that because, well, like I said, I'm going to say whatever I said on the statement, but I won't repeat their names, Steve. You know why? Because I won't give them the energy. I'll call them +1, +2, and +3. You'll just have to work out who's who. All right? Singleton's +1, Laws is +2, Jones is +3. All right? Went to the ABC while Jones was going on the Q&A, left him a note, said, look, this is wrong. Your integrity of your show is going to get whacked up. He's been known as pus by the police. Police believe me, and they still put him on. So that's what you're up against when it comes to dealing with, and I won't call them Freemasons after this, I'll call them FMs. I won't give them the energy.
Yeah.
All right? So the FMs was my father's social group. All right? Now, I was taken down there from the ages of 5 to 10 into certain lodges and houses. When I told the police, the house on the North Shore had red concrete and white pillars. Remember that before going in, and it's always been in my head. Now, I know what happened when I went in there. I put it in my book. It's in the first part of my book. To the left, downstairs, and this room with people dressed in black and someone shoved an onion in my mouth. All right? Prior to that, they give you a sweetie. That sweetie's always been laced with LSD back in those days. So, as a child of 5, here I am, smashed off my head on LSD, going through a rape ritual, and having no idea when I came out of it because someone's hypnotising me or conditioning me behind that. Now, to give this any validity of what I've been saying, when I was growing up, I found my father's embroidered apron, right? And got a flogging for that. I get a flogging all the time. That's how I got hard. All right, so I got a flogging for that, and it stuck with me. Right. So the next time, he actually delved into an insane abuse situation. I threw this back at him. I said, "You're a fucking Freemason." Now, where that came from, I've got no fucking idea, but it worked. Yeah. He stopped. He was scared of me until he got me down to the lodge to get reprogrammed. But he was scared of me. The club was scared of me because here I am at 11, 12, just telling everybody Freemasons are fucked in public.
You're before your time.
And then I, down there to get brainwashed. Oh, I forgot again. You know, and that's how they've actually managed their own safety and protection. Now, when I found the diaries was 99. Now, I can give a heads up to the poor old Freemasons out there who think they're actually in for a long time if they've joined up in the last 15 years. They're not. They've actually been designed to keep an eye on people like Fiona and myself. They'll cross our paths, we'll meet you. But if we met you and you haven't got anything to take back to them, you're not protected by them. So that's what I've got to get through to the inside. You know, I do believe that people haven't gone to this level.
Oh yeah.
Within the FMs, I do believe. Strange, but I do, and I believe that those people need to be sort of a little bit nurtured. Once again, you know, responsibility of a human being, a little bit nurtured to understand that it's your club. You remove the pass, you move pass 1, 2, and 3 out of your club, then everything's going to go back to normal. Yeah. You know. Unless you've been a pedophile, and then you deserve the consequences coming to you. You know? All right, so...
And Derek, what was the role of Derek?
Derek is a boys' home. Now, Derek's interesting to me because I caught up with the story of John Stewart, who did the Whiskey A Go-Go. Now, you want to do some research on that. Now, the Whiskey A Go-Go was covered up by the police doing an incompetent action that night and killing 15 people, right? This is Australia's first mass murder in Brisbane, 1983, 2nd of August, 2:08. VIPs everywhere in this club, our VIPs from those days. Big band, you know, all these sort of things that have actually had to be squashed because they wanted to blame somebody else who was on the Gold Coast at the time. So, Joe Bjelke-Petersen came out as the Premier and said, they are crims, they are the ones that did it, not before a jury, not before a judge, not before anything, you know, broke the law. Right? But of course he's an FM, you know,
but also
we never get away with it.
Queensland was a police state back then.
No, he was a police state after that. There wasn't a police state before that.
Wasn't it?
No.
After that.
No, they had to make it a police state after that because they just had to cover it up. Because actually who did it, in my belief, is Rogerson and McNamara. Now, Rogerson and McNamara in your bin down there in Long Bay.
Yeah, two of the people who don't know are watching the show, you can look them up. They're some of the most dirtiest, you know, people involved in police in New South Wales and Australia, yeah.
Well, Rogerson ran the pedo brothels, the boy brothels in King's Cross. So he ran child trafficking in Sydney. Basically, he was the kingpin, you know, criminal thug behind it all.
Connected right into all that. He had his finger in every single pie. It was just connected.
Yep. Every single victim that I've spoken to, I've spoken now to so many boys who are prostituted in that area from the boys' homes like Darrick and Minder and all this. They all name Rogerson. Everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So Rogerson came across my path because I was looking at Westbrook, which is a boys' home in Toowoomba, and that's where Stewart and all that. So you know the stuff that's going on in the Northern Territory. Well, that was going on, but obviously a lot of sexual abuse as well. The
detention centre.
But the alignment was when they came out that they actually were going to get verbal or forcefully arrested, so the criminal record would keep building. And I met these individuals, you know, 30 years after they've had this shit happen to them, they've had to be a criminal all their life because the coppers couldn't be bothered doing their own time for their own crime. So McNamara threatened to kill me, so I've got that. That was in a court case, and I had for the conspiracy. Now, do I know who's a killer? No, I thought I was the only killer in the room. I go, what's he doing? He sent everybody out. We're here by ourselves. Yeah. But, you know, if I knew he was a killer, I might have a different attitude. But no, I was pretty stoked. And, yeah, just walked over the top of him, you know, back into the room. And you know, that's to me, I am going to be totally honest about that and say, I did not know who McNamara was when he threatened to kill me back in those days. I know who he is now because I saw a photo of him going into Long Bay. That's how our life works. We have to keep going backwards to actually get that connection.
And Tim, just to clarify, the court case was an attempt by the government to set you up as a criminal, and you won that case. Yeah?
No,
is that the one?
It was an attempt by the police.
The police.
Yeah. The police were training over in the West with submachine guns, right? So when I went to my court case and they raided me, when the magistrate asked me what weapons did I have, and I said Uzis, he went, what? I said, easy, I'll describe it, I'll break it down for you, I'll show you the measurements of the apartments, right? And he's going, police Karen, easy, bang, that was it. You know, my court case was finished. I was acquitted at that point, but I've got to sit there now for another 2 days of constitutional law that no one knows about.
Wow. Yeah, because I didn't know that myself. I mean, I knew that police obviously didn't have automatic weapons and they didn't use them like that. But that was obviously a major thing. That was against the law. That was totally
That's huge.
Yeah.
And the way they want to cover that up, they won't cover it because I hunt people who hurt children. They're not going to cover stuff for me anymore.
Yeah.
And as I said, everything's evidential in my world. You can actually find out the well, I had Johnny Howard's crew not allow me to have a lifestyle for 3 years because I was asking Veteran Affairs for help after the choppers fell out of the sky in '96. But prior to that, that's 15 lads on your own. But prior to that, 3 of my best mates, when the boys were doing the reconnaissance for the exercise, I was informed, 3 mates are dead. So on my head, and I just am honest with people, right? When my world goes from black and white to grey, and that's good understanding what PTSD feels like, you can get flooded, you get swamped.
So just to clarify, Tim's now talking about the helicopter that went down in Townsville about 20 years ago, was it? And had all your mates on board, yeah? Yeah.
2 choppers.
2 choppers went. Oh, they crashed, didn't they?
Yeah.
And you think there was something sinister about that?
No, just dumb officers, mate.
Oh, okay.
Dumb pilots, dumb generals. Generals not.
Hey, there's no conspiracy here. They were just dumb.
Yeah, just dumb. Yeah, if you've got a conspiracy, mate, you really have to work out what's going on. They're just incompetent, and they can't help it. I mean, if I don't know what you do, but let's just look at a lawyer. All right, if a lawyer goes through a university, they're not going to be actually thrown up in front of the big boys to actually deal with the QCs and all that until another 10, 15 years, right? You expect them to get that nurturing and that understanding of their position and their profession, right? Not the army. No. We just take them straight out of school. We put them up with a sergeant in the infantry. We actually hold their hands to teach them what they've got to load there. And it's just illogical. And the amount of abuse that's gone on in these academies, you could shut them down for 5 years and just employ people who actually have got 4 or 5 years military experience. Might be a good idea. Who's the actual leaders? And it's the only thing across the board, right? If you've got a dentist, yes, you need a professional officer. If you've got an engineer, yes, you need a professional officer because they've got the brains to be an engineer. But putting people through 4 years of teaching them how to be a soldier, you can't do it unless they're actually being a soldier. Right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, yes, there's an issue with myself regarding how I was treated by the officers, but the boys in the West, I remain loyal, trustworthy, and honest to them, and have done exactly the same to me. So is this connected with FMs? I don't know, but I do know that.
Likely, yeah.
I know my life has been disrupted. Yeah. Why have they disrupted it? Why did I have to have a criminal record when I clean bloody military record? This is my whole thing.
Design.
It has been designed to make sure I haven't got a voice.
It could very well make sense. I mean, the Australian military is based off Freemasonry. I think they have their own Freemasonic lodges. I mean, you get advanced through the ranks if you're a member of that.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course. And that's how it works. And, I mean, they need to keep secrets. Military just by itself crosses over with military intelligence really closely. So it's all about secrets. It's all about, who's got the most information, who can one up the other person, and it's about power. And that's what Freemasonry is. It's about...
We don't allow social clubs, which all they are. I mean, I went to the Royal Commission well before everybody else did in regards to, calling for it. And I had to be in front of APEC, Rotary, Lions, Zonta, Probus, all people motivated to get a Royal Commission in this country.
And all those groups are connected.
The FM's my father's social club invite me,
No.
If I was a good boy, I would have been one of them by now.
Yeah, we'd all be rich and famous now if we'd just agreed to kill and rape kids, Tim. Yeah, there's something wrong with
Something wrong with that.
Yeah. Now, back to Darrick, because this is, so topical in the media at the moment.
Darrick has big steel gates back in those days and big stone squares holding the gates up, okay? You drove up, and the accommodation was on the top, and their, their farms and their fields were down there. Now, my memory of Jones, Lawes and Singleton at Darrick on social outings, +1, 2, 3, right, is, as I told the police, they were there. They took boys from there and myself to homes, to social outings, which are supposed to be under the guise that we are having a time out with the boys and we're doing the best thing for them, but they weren't. They were just raping us. So you can't keep understanding people who want to keep protecting these people. Stop protecting personalities. It doesn't matter.
And this is why, I mean,
they have no impact on you.
Yeah. And there's also there's other people who've come forward at Darrick with the same experiences. The piece came in there, and people can look that up. Fiona's covered that, and I mean, this is the thing. There's so much guilt there by these people that they're doing everything to cover it up, and they know they're stuffed when someone like Tim comes out, like yourself, and exposes them. And it's just, with all the other people that have come forward, I mean, everyone needs to ask themselves, why isn't anything being done?
Well, I'll give you a confirmation for the listeners. I actually do realise I'm on radio now. I'll give you confirmation. with Darrick, I've found that I've actually been very not only protected, but given education, and people's experiences have given me education that's allowed me to sort of piece things together. Now, my first sponsor in a 12-step program actually stabbed my father. He was getting raped by him and he stabbed him, How do you find that person in the world? But I'm sure I could find him, you know what I mean? Yeah. We as people who go through this stuff, if we keep committed to keeping children safe, the universe just keeps giving us enough information to not sure if we're not going to get done, but also enough information for the public to start to get educated that you don't have to believe in these people. Yeah. They're billionaires. They stole $1 billion off Australians. They haven't done anything else. That's all they've done.
And they're just drug traffickers, like Kerry Packer was just a heroin trafficker, I'm
not putting my name to that.
No, I agree.
I am.
I
think that's on Wikipedia.
Drugs don't affect abuse people. No.
Now, there's another story, isn't there, and which I remember you telling me, which is the brother that was fostered from Darrick, who went missing one day.
No, we're going back. We're going to Ballarat.
Oh, that's Ballarat. Oh, God.
Once again, I'm in Sydney, where you are. Fucking cold in there, isn't it?
Oh, it's freezing.
Yeah, so we're in Ballarat, and all the Pell things going off, and the Ballarat, My old man and Pell probably kissed each other. That's how much they liked each other, right? I won't worry about it. I know.
Pell kissed a lot of
we see big Pell moving around, mate. Don't you worry about that.
Pell's, I'll just say, I don't know if you know this, but I'm in contact with some victims who are Pell victims, and the police are taking their witness statements against Pell being a pedophile himself. And these guys have been told by Victorian police that they've got him, they've got Pell, they're inundated with victims coming forward for the last, since it was, well, not just then, but since since a couple of weeks ago, when two guys appeared on 7:30 report or something, talking about being raped by Pella's kids. So since then, so in the last couple of weeks, they're just inundated. They've just got no room. They've got such a lineup of guys to make witness statements. But go on, Tim. Yeah.
All right. So my brother was born in Ballarat. Nice bit of evidence. I mean, yes, I was taken away from the home, but I don't think I missed out on my brother being born. So yeah. I'm in Ballarat. At 3 to 4, I'm in Ballarat. Now, this shit starts at 5, and they won't go, they may go earlier, it depends on how sick they are. But the law back in New South Wales, where we were, was that children could not give evidence after 10 years old, before 10 years old, right? That's changed. The Sex Crime Unit of New South Wales, praise them. Absolute, full-on, thank fuck, there's some fucking coppers out there that can actually believe in.
And there's good coppers out there, and I've spoken to
There is great
They're
coppers.
not all infiltrated, and
No.
they're so frustrated, aren't they, working with all these.
You know who I know a good cop? He's the one who smiles at me and waves at me because he's happy about what I'm doing. You know what the big one does? He just snarls. You know what I do to his snarl? I walk past him and go, "Thanks for the energy. I'll use that wisely," and walk off.
That's great. That's great that you can be able to do that.
I want this fight, you know. I want this fight. Too good for
They
him.
must hate that. They must hate that. Yeah.
Oh, they love us. So Ballarat.
All right, Ballarat. Right now, this is interesting. Back in the old days, and I'm going to put this in the category of fundamentalist Christianity, right, which was what I was brought up in. Within the fundamentalist Christianity,
With Gordon Moyes.
oh no, it goes right back to the Genesis,
All right.
and people need to understand this. This is where their purity comes from. They actually believe they're allowed to in the Bible, because how the fuck did our population begin without incest and pedophilia? Cain killed Abel. There's only 2 boys and a girl left. That's the purity in it. That's what they believe. The fundamentalists.
But just
They're entitled to rape you because it's in Genesis.
well, there's with Gordon Moyes.
Okay, we're going back to Ballarat. Right. Ballarat, 3 years old. So how long was I there? 5, maybe? Maybe I started earlier. But I was born in Yallourn, right? Which is quite a difference. Like you've got Melbourne here, Yallourn here, Ballarat here, right? So it's a bit of a difference where I was born. But that's obviously a melting pit for Pell as well. With my old man Pell. Now, they used to farm out the foster kids to the Christians, right? This is the question, not only for the FMs, but also for the Ballarat community, for anybody who wants to understand that my little brother Joey, who's probably 2 years older than me, who's 5 in Ballarat, is missing. I'll ask my mum in the past when she's been crying over his photo, where is he? Where's Joey? Oh, he went back. Now, if the Social Security records want to actually prove that to me and then introduce me to my foster brother they took away, then I'll behave myself. But presently, you're looking like another child's gone missing in this pedophile ring. Joey Horswell was his name. So we leave Ballarat. Ballarat's filth. All right. Okay. So we're in Ballarat. We now move to Queanbeyan, Canberra, back and forth. Now you got Canberra, different state.
I was
different
abused in Queanbeyan.
Queanbeyan, New South Wales legislation. In the future, Gordon Moyes, the pus has taken his life because I'm on his ass, has written legislation for the New South Wales because he's a New South Wales legislator. So if
Understand who Gordon Moyes is, I'll just clarify. He was an evangelical, so-called Christian pastor, and I actually knew Gordon Moyes. He used to come up and do these crusades. He used to travel the country doing crusades, and he came up to Tweedhead's Church of Christ, which I call Tweedhead's Church of Satan because it was infiltrated completely by Freemasons. Yeah, so it was just all, they were all on the board. The pastor was good at the time, Murray Pieper. He was actually a genuine guy, and the church got rid of him, sacked him, because they didn't like the fact that he was actually preaching the Bible properly. So they got rid of him, but it was around that time when Murray Pieper was there that, I had lunch with Gordon Moyes, and he used to come up and do these crusades and everything, and he was held within Church of Christ and other denominations, Protestant denominations. He was hailed as this great, respectable man, but he's one of, he was just nothing but a kiddie rapist.
Well, here's my mate, my father's mate, an FM, no doubt. And he didn't need a ritual, he didn't need a building, he just got me over to his place because they were fixing up cars doing rallies back in those days. And I get raped just inside the room inside the laundry, not the laundry itself because people would hear. But, they're very effective in what they do. You normally gag before you even get anywhere, so that's the first thing they're going to do is shut your mouth up if you're going to go through that.
And Gordon Moyes, he, under the guise of the church, purchased 2GB radio station in Sydney.
He stole it.
Stole it.
They're good Christian men, these men. He stole it, right? And then he was sweating, so Singleton took it off him, right? Now, Singleton's been sweating since I left, but too tired to turn up and tell the truth, right?
So, yeah.
And he's actually... I went to the Sydney Morning Herald to tell my story, you know. I like to pass USBs over. But once it's in, it's in the cloud. It's like, you idiot.
Can't burn the clouds.
And they want to see what's in there, you know. So it's like, it doesn't matter. There's a perfect way to get it in the cloud. And I do it for the future kids, mate. You know, I do it for future adults who can actually go to the cloud and go, you can't say that. It's all evidence. You know?
But let's just have a quick overview of who works at 2GB radio station and who has. So it was bought by Gordon Moyes.
No, he stole it from the church.
He stole it. Sorry, it was stolen by Gordon Moyes.
Yeah.
And then it was sold to John Singleton.
No, it wasn't sold. It was just passed over.
It was passed over to John Singleton, another one of your perpetrators. Yeah. And then commentators at 2GB have been John Laws. Gordon Moyes was a commentator there.
+4.
Announcer. Alan Jones is an announcer.
+3.
And who's the other one? We're missing one.
So we've got Alan Jones.
Oh, Roger Clemson. Roger Clemson. He was also at 2GB radio. So, you know.
If you want to link up these people, right? Do you remember the carbon copy books? Have you ever seen them in your lifetime? You fresh young face, young man.
Yeah. He doesn't know that.
You mean, yeah.
Don't worry, he doesn't know.
With a carbon copy, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Carbon copy there. Right, he had 6 books.
In the old days, Steve.
He had 6 books. All right, 6 books of laws letters. That's why the police can't go anywhere, because they only have to prove that was done. Yeah. And if you've got 6 books, you only have to find, you know, Mrs. Laws or Mr. Uncle Laws or whatever, you know.
So
to say, yeah, we saw that, bang, you know.
And what were these letters? What was in these letters?
Right, now we're dealing with, once again, you're dealing with the FMs, and the FMs have a very comfortable understanding that they've been communicating a lot different to everybody else for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? They've had a particular code, and in Australia, their particular code has always been based on, I believe, a book that my father had with his 6 books of, you know, empty one-page carbon copies to +2. So they've got this code, and this code itself, I don't know, if you're going to go and look up an Egyptian hieroglyphic wall, there might be some of that in there. If you go and look up a Scotsman's dialect 100 years ago, there might be something in that in there. But it's fairly comfortable for someone who's trained by cipher in the West, you know, 3rd best in the world when I left it. Fairly easy for us to be able to say, yeah, I can make some sort of understanding from what I'm saying.
Well, I can see understanding of what you're saying, Tim, because, you know, when we see all these big names, and they're all at 2GB, and especially Gordon Moyes being involved with like the Uniting Church and the Wesley Methodist Church, that's very interesting, because the 2GB, or 2GB's history, starts with the Theosophical Society. And for the viewers who aren't aware of the Theosophical Society, in my opinion, and what I've researched, that's a Luciferian organization. It is based on Freemasonry. It is highly occult. It is connected into all the occult groups as like a learning hub. And
I'm getting goosebumps, viewers, listeners. I'm getting goosebumps. What you just said, Steve, what you just said then is confirmation back to me that I may have discovered this by verbal or by watching people's behaviour, but you actually understand that this is where it's actually come from. Yeah, now, the book that I had there is called The School of Philosophy, New South Wales School of Philosophy. Originally, it was called the School of Economic Science. Now, that book's the key. Everybody knows if you're going to do cipher, you're going to have to find another source where they keep the key, where they actually keep that sort of understanding. Now, my father's dumb, and he highlighted and underlined, well, he didn't highlight, he underlined particular places, which made me feel that I'm confidently deciphering And you know what I was deciphering? Not only, 30 years of pedophilia in this country, and the next thing that makes me absolutely disgusting is that they were monitoring my lifestyle, my achievements in the regiment, because I was shit scared. And they should be.
And they would, because they've got a lot to hide. And going back to 2GB and the Theosophical Society, that actually started out in this, what they actually called the occult forcing house of the Southern Hemisphere. So all occult groups, from 1900 onwards, and it was built around 1920, I think, and they all gathered there. So you had the heads of Freemasonry, you had the heads of satanic organizations, you had the heads of all these dodgy groups meeting there. And it's very interesting because it was actually created by a guy who was obviously the head of the Theosophical Society at that time. He was Charles Webster Leadbeater, and people can look him up. He was a pedophile, and he was into black magic, and he was initiated into satanic organizations. So you got this pedophile Satanist who created the area or the company and part of the Theosophical Society that housed 2GB and created it with the sole purpose of theosophizing Australia, basically propaganda out there for people to worship everything else but Christianity.
And support the pedophiles. They're media. They are media enablers. And I took that term from a top journalist in America who feels shame that they didn't report on the Cosby rapes many years before Cosby was charged, and he said we have been Cosby media enablers, and 2GB are VIP pedophiles media enablers, and that's the same as ABC Media Watch. That's the same.
You've got Alan Jones on there still today, and he's been outed as a pedophile for how many years? Alan Jones,
he was charged in England. He was charged in England for procuring a 14-year-old kid in a toilet or something.
I reckon I shouldn't have labelled him pus free as my favourite number. He gets to live on.
He's a rat bag, that guy. And everyone knows it.
What actually happens now, mate, is that the actual assault on individuals doesn't work, right? It's family. Their wives have got to tell them to leave the country. My lifestyle's about to get rocked out of my socks. Their children and their grandchildren are going to grab it from the cloud. Or someone's going to send it to their grandchildren. They have a chance. So it's like, why are you protecting them?
Exactly. Yeah,
burn them now.
Are they all in it too? Are they protecting themselves? I mean, this is the thing. And
it is a multi-generational phenomenon.
Yeah, I have to be fair with the Theosophical Society. They owned it. They owned 2GB for a while. That was really up to about 20 years. But, they sold it off apparently, but the connections and employees were still there. And they held programs, Theosophical Society programs on 2GB long after that. And the fact that it then got bought by the Wesleyan Methodist Church, I have to give some background on that. The OTO, now I'm not suggesting they're any part of this, people can do their own research and make up their own mind. That and other groups like the like occult and Freemasonry really started off in a building in Sydney that was previously owned by the Wesleyan Methodist Church. Now the Methodist Church was started by a Freemason. His grandson was a Freemason. People can look that up. That was John Wesley.
Church now, Methodist and Presbyterian.
Well, it's
Uniting was a combination.
Wasn't that called
it's a complex history. It started off as the Methodist Church, then it sort of branched out, and you got I can bring it up in the web brain here. But it's part of different groups, but it's basically Methodism branched out into the Uniting Church. Prior to that, it became like the Wesleyan.
There was two. Uniting was a combination of two different denominations, I thought.
Yeah, Methodist and Presbyterian. It was my understanding. I've been corrected by John, I think, before. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
Now
anyhow,
let's go to the Wesley.
Even the group that say Gordon Moyes. Let me look it up here. I'll just be one sec because I've just lost my page here. So, Gordon Moyes was head of, involved with the Uniting Church and Wesley Mission, part of the, previously the Methodist Church of Australia. Now
Yeah.
it's connected in with Freemasonry. It's connected here with occult groups and the start of occult groups and occult Freemasonry here in Australia. And then it, after a while, it then acquires 2GB or a large part in it. This church group. And so, it's interesting to see that it, was apparently sold off and it became, acquired by this group with similar connections into that sort of, occult stuff. So, I mean, people can see that the connection's still there. It may not be there as strong today, but certainly it gave, an opportunity for these people to use that as a network and be involved with that. So just adding on that, just thought I'd clarify that up.
I'm about the horror, with the Wesley House in Sydney.
Yeah.
I actually met a lad who was kept there from the age of 11 to 3 months, and so he was there for 3 months. And my father, Moyes, and plus 1, 2, and 3 were apparently visitors back in those days. Now he's the same age as me, so that would have been back in the 70s, 80s. Yeah. Kept there for 3 months by FM and their crew. So if you want testimony, I'm pretty sure he'll poke his head up. But we discussed it, and we do believe it's definitely my father, and definitely Moyes, and definitely plus 2.
And Roger Clemson, by the way, continued this legacy of being involved in Christian radio and Christian media, because he got an Order of Australian Medal, and he was involved in the Hope, which is the biggest Christian radio station in Sydney. So he, sort of pretended to be a Christian, right up until he got the Order of Australian Medal, and he was the manager, the head executive or something of that Hope channel. So it's unreal, isn't it?
Getting on radio, they love telling everyone that
Yes.
everything's okay.
How to live their lives.
Yeah.
This is where we recondition them, okay? Brain only needs any adequacy. The brain needs 3 to 4 days before it actually goes, I don't want to kill myself anymore. I want to live here, right?
Yeah.
So I say to the plus 1, 2, 3 listeners and those who've been influenced by him, don't listen to them for 3 days straight. When you have finished that 3 days, turn them on and see how you truly feel about that voice coming through to you.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
If it's past, turn it off.
The propaganda's there, and it's.
If you want to keep it on, get conditioned for it on, then ask yourself for another 3 days.
Yeah.
And somebody said that John Singleton was married to Liz Hayes of 60 Minutes.
Yeah, Liz Hayes is definitely someone who's going to get burnt by all this. Definitely. She's been protected far too much. She did that one where you were over the other side of DY, the DY minister, and he was ped, but he was actually put in front by the ministry to actually stand up and go, and Liz went and got some people who had DID, like myself, right, and embarrassed them, absolutely made fucking gooses out of them. So there's consequences for that. You don't hurt the vulnerable, it's just silly.
And that's the thing. I mean, the Uniting Church, which Gordon Moyes is, I think was the only official church in Australia that was really pushing the idea of false memories. David Milliken was one of their leading members.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and David Milliken I think he's an alright guy. I've got him connected to a couple Satanists in my, sort of research, but I don't know if he was just a willful idiot, but he was leading the Australian False Memory Association, which was just like the CIA's one in America, which discredited all victims of ritual abuse, mind control, and sexual abuse, and said, "Oh, look, Tim, your memories, they're all made up. You can't recall them. You can't remember what happened to you."
We call those phrase bombs.
Yeah.
Or word bomb. Exaggerate. You exaggerate that.
Yeah, they got something to hide, and they protect the same people.
Yeah. We've given a general overview of most of the main areas, I reckon.
One thing I do want to say about the diaries, mate, is
Blackmail.
once again, there's credibility. Yeah. There is a list of 30 names on my father's last diary on the cover, right? And he is actually from the top. That's why I call him plus 1. You got Singleton, Laws plus 2, Jones plus 3, Moyes plus 4, Clemson +5. There are the 5 names there that he was blackmailing my father for $1 million each.
Huh.
I wonder if they remember that.
We want to say we better say that again. We better record that again, eh?
Oh, I've got
Get
it.
it. Oh, you got it.
Yep.
We're recording.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So that's basically what kicked me off. And then I took to Ascot. Ascot was Liz Mullinar's outfit back in those days.
Yep.
And they offered to put it in a safe for me, but I did, and it was just one of those situations. I felt that there was too much anti-male energy revolving around the fact that males are starting to come out and tell their story, and it was a female domain for so long.
Yeah, it was.
So I dealt with that and took them back. Now I got in a physical fight with my brother over that.
Yep.
And left the place not knowing what was going to happen to the diary. So I walked away. I just went, right, it's not worth, it's not worth me bashing my older brother in front of his teenage kids, So,
Yeah.
so and I'm not a person that gets into violence easily at all. But this one, it did fire up that way, and he just yelled out, "Oh, I bloody burnt them." So as far as I understand, from that night on, they've been burnt. So I carry the information, and only people can do.
And Liz
is
Mulliner
believe me.
carries the information, but Liz
yeah,
Mulliner,
I mean, this is the thing.
now let's just say Liz Mulliner, when the police, you can see from his statement that Liz Mulliner did not support Tim Roy to the police regarding the content of those diaries or even their existence. She just didn't cooperate at all.
Why would
And,
she? Why would she refused to comment from what I read? And this is the thing. I mean, Liz Mulliner, she popped up in my investigation of Fiona's story. One, mainly because she gave Nicole Kidman the chance of a career in stardom. She casted her in her first show and basically promoted her.
Yeah.
But more than that, I mean, she was connected into, the theatre group and was actually the head of the theatre group that Anthony Kidman had donated money to, that John Bell used to own, that, all these people that Fiona has named as, perpetrators were right in this area at the same time. And she then, creates this satanic ritual abuse clinic.
Your life.
Yeah, and, that's very interesting.
It's dodgy. It's got a very bad reputation amongst survivors.
Well, that's interesting to hear. I haven't heard many survivors. I looked at it, and it offers a good service. I can imagine that they do help some people, but just from the connections already.
Apart from that fire officer who walked in there non-suicidal and then committed suicide after being at Hill for Life.
Yeah, and there's been allegations that satanic cult members
Just
have been
that one.
there. Yeah, there's been, allegations that, Satanists have been in there, working there, infiltrating it. And, some other interesting things like, Liz Mulliner was involved with the movie that was being filmed in Bathurst, which is a very small town, at the same time that Fiona, alleges that there was satanic ritual abuse there with, notable people like actors involved in it. So, there's all these weird connections in there, very close with the Kidman family, very close with other, suspect people in the theatre and entertainment industry, and other, very close with other, some of other, Fiona's perpetrators like John Bell and Bruce Spence, So there's questions arise there, and, Tim, what do you think of Liz Mulliner and Heal for Life?
I have not directly been involved with Liz Mulliner when I've removed the diaries from Asker's safe. So I have had reports, and as you, some are favourable, and some are more of an understanding that my way of counselling would have been a whole lot better for him than her particular type she chose. Yep. Being counselled by someone who's actually been abused is a whole lot more powerful than someone who's actually decided that this is going to be my gift to the earth and I'm going to do this sort of work.
That's interesting too, because at university and through the Australian Psychology, board, they sort of promote the notion that victims should never work with victims. And that's ridiculous because really I don't know anyone, I've never met anyone who understands the, MK Ultra, mind control, military mind control and ritual abuse like I do. I mean, really, I couldn't find one person on this planet who could ever support me. I had to do my own therapy, really, and just call every now and then. I met someone who had a little bit of courage for a little while to take me another step. I just needed someone to hold my hand, but I planned it all. No one knew what was going on, and because our universities are infiltrated. So, what Tim says.
I think that's what we're going to come back to, Steve. That I believe these people, and I'll give you an example, which it's not something that I share too often, but I had a plant on me up at Ely Beach. I have all the time. I've actually discussed it.
We had a plant following. When I first met Tim, can I just say, we had a spook on our trail, and then he comes over my house about a week ago or something, and then I get all these mysterious calls, where no one talks to me at the end of the thing, and I didn't answer most of them, but suddenly my home phone number that nobody ever uses and nobody knows the number of, and I've had a silent number for 14, 15 years, starts ringing. So I'm just saying, Tim brings a lot of interesting characters on board.
Yeah.
But who's the spook that was up at the beach?
I've got a situation where I'm going to have a crack at the Governor General. He might have been the ones that did put in the MVG's training. Didn't even have the hours for MVG training. My mates are dead. Right, I'll have a crack at you. No, there was a sting put out there to try and, because I was well and truly not lucid. No way. Not at all. I was completely scattered by all the energy that was fighting me, and I've got cops doing bloody wasting taxpayers' money and resources on the innocent, on the non-criminal, but it happens, right? If you want a Royal Commission, that's where you go. The Royal Commission and the police wastages of resources, police hours, taxpayers' money against the innocent.
Well, setting up VIP victims,
Yeah.
So getting back to what I understand a little bit more, I understand evil like this, Steve. Energy violently injected into living. Now, has people like Liz Mulliner had evil in them? No doubt. All right? It's just that energy that's actually there that is probably not allowing the individual as an individual mind to perceive what they truly want to perceive. But the fact is that they actually have an energy that's moving through them and controlling that direction and outcome. That makes sense?
Makes sense to me. And there are some, scientific studies which can even, say a lot, shed a lot of light on that. But just in all of our own experiences, just sort of what anyone can understand, when they might see or perceive to see, someone who's evil, you can get that sense just looking at their eyes. You get that feeling of just being around them.
That's weird.
We can all feel it if we tune into it, if we choose to.
You watch their eyes switch like that.
Oh, you can see their eyes switch.
And if you've actually been through that, the first thing we're going to do, I'm not, big tough boy, had to keep tough.
Yeah.
I didn't come out of the army and have to go soft. I had to keep tough.
Yeah.
So, where was I going?
Do you know what's interesting? One point that you've made to me in the past, which is that your ability to dissociate that you learned as a child came in handy in the selection process for the SAS.
Yeah,
because
for the
it
West.
was
Don't mention those letters, just
right.
Just the West.
Well, dissociation, the ability to dissociate from pain is probably one of the key attributes, isn't it? When you're going through their training.
I think I no doubt that every individual actually has the ability to condition himself or be conditioned. But, pain's covered by the brain. You've got dopamines and endorphins that'll kick in and make it a lot easier. You just got to keep pushing yourself. Yeah. That's what pain is.
And and people don't realise that. I heard a top neuroscientist in America once say that the brain, that psychological pain registers in the brain as physical pain, and it does. Like we feel it as when we've got PTSD, we feel it as physical pain. And that's what people don't understand. You know, they see someone lying on the street smashed up by a car accident and, you know, they go, oh, well, they wouldn't sit over there and go, oh, look, it's all in your head. Yeah. You know, create your own reality, make it all go away, focus on the positive, forget the past, get on with life. You wouldn't do that to someone smashed up in a car accident, but they do it to us. They do it to us all the time, you know, and they withhold treatment from us. You know?
There's just not enough understanding of it because they all want to deny the fact that, you know, mind control exists, that, you know, multiple personalities exist, and that, you know, you can't recall memories, so it didn't happen. I mean, once we get past that, we can really start helping victims get the truth out there.
Once again, and
starting to do it. You know?
Yeah, and I reiterate that this whole false memory syndrome foundation, which is started by pedophiles in America.
Oh yeah.
And that's a fact. That's a documented fact. You've got, you know, one of the fellows was quoted in a Pedica or pedophile magazine in the Netherlands as saying, you know, pedophilia is a great life choice, you know. So he's one of the key founders of the False Memory Foundation. Now, the people who pushed this false memory stuff, where it started was with the Wood Royal Commission, and you've got the government hired.
I started that. Well, I had to ask him, but yeah, the actual court case, because it got sent to the ombudsman, and he actually proved that I was falsely arrested. The only thing he didn't prove out of the whole thing was there was excessive force. Now, if there was excessive force and they proved it, well, then the submachine guns would have come out again, you know. So, falsely arrested and conspired against. Now, you know how I found out the conspiracy? Not many people know this, because not many people know about the court case. Every incident statement, when you turn the pages, the T, like that, has a printer error, which makes it like that. I'm just looking through it, and going, every T is like this in each statement. I'm shouting embarrassed, and he's going, oh.
Well, how did that happen?
Because they met in Penrith, that's why they conspired against me. All of them were completely different groups. There was the bomb squad, there was the military police, there was the tactical response group, now called the state protection group because I changed that. Normal police, and what else was there?
Feds?
No, Feds weren't there. Right. So all of those individuals decided in their own wisdom that they would get together and make sure we got the right story. But someone didn't check the printer.
And so you're saying that you could detect the conspiracy
it was obvious.
through the
It was obvious.
because all the documents, the independent documents had the same typo in it.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's so easy to hide a conspiracy in those notes.
But that comes back to being one of the abuse kids, when they decide it's criminal record time, right? And of course I fought it.
And won.
An abused kid who's an adult, who's obviously, I can guarantee you, I've got no idea what happened during that trial.
Didn't you end up in a scuffle with some guard or something?
No, that was McNamara. I pushed past him and hit his ankle pistol.
Right.
Well, the West, you know, you start trying these things out. You never worn an ankle pistol in the military, you know, but when you're playing in the West, you get to have those sort of luxuries. So there's only a few people sort of, you know, ended up being covert. So we would tap their ankles and make sure they knew the pistol was there. So I didn't say the McNamara when I came out, just felt natural. He's hollering away and the barrister's going, what's going on? It's like obviously knows a killer, I don't know.
Yeah, well, everyone knows he is now. Jeez.
So getting, just to clarify with the Wood Royal Commission.
Yeah. Okay,
so just to clarify, regarding the Wood Royal Commission, so that was a big investigation, state government investigation in New South Wales into a Sydney-based pedophile ring involving VIPs, and that's the pedophile ring that Tim and I were victims of. And that involved all these people we've been talking about, but it involved a lot of journalists and police and so forth. But it was focused very much on ritual abuse and a lot of mind control stuff. And I know a lot of victims now through who testified to the Wood Royal Commission, and it involved Hillsong Church as well. The original.
Oh, the Assembly of God College.
Yeah, that,
I was there.
Yeah. He's been everywhere, man. So
What's my life about? Who wants it? I don't want it.
Yeah.
I
I
was
don't know
there.
either.
I was there. No, I actually put to the statement about the youth leader up there of the first Bible college that was actually in Katoomba for the Pentecostals. Right, so I was an actual youth leader. Had my little ranger badge and all this sort of thing, and for those that knows out there, I got the fraternity camping badge as well. After we, you know, I'm joining the army. I've got all these things happening already. You know. I'm trying to have some fun in the horror. That's what I'm trying to do.
He's already highly qualified within the pedophile hierarchy.
Yeah,
with his little badges.
So my father took us there because the Baptist Church bounced him. Right, the Salvation Army bounced him to the Baptists, and the Baptists bounced him to the Pentecostals. Right, because they're trying their best to try and keep their kids safe. I understand that, and there's been a lot of people who have actually done a lot of work to make this safe for kids. Because if they didn't, it'd be just a madness, just a nightmare. They'd just be picking the kids off the street and raping them in front of you. And that's how much they think they're entitled.
Well, that's what they did. That's what Hillsong did to Helen, a little girl who is supposedly a cold case, but not at all. A family have testified to 2 royal commissions now that she was actually taken off the street in front of a house by the youth leaders from Hillsong Church, and these 2 children testified in court and to the Royal Commission that they witnessed her being ritually sacrificed by Hillsong Church members. So that was back when Frank Houston had started it, and he was actually a pedophile, charged and committed suicide over it. And Scipione attended his funeral. So New South Wales Police Minister Scipione.
He would happen to be
attended
the best friends of the top Masons in Australia. Scipione.
Oh, and Scipione's supposed to be this Baptist Christian, and whatever. He's attending Frank Houston's funeral.
He goes to all the Masonic events, but about Hillsong too.
I found a lot of people in certain organisations involved in the Hillsong Church. I'm in contact with current victims of the Hillsong Church. So there's one young lady was prostituted from the age of 2 to 22 at Hillsong, the current Hillsong location, and I know of other people who. Abused through Hillsong.
Okay, there was no Hillsong. There was no Hillsong in the Assemblies of God. There was a Hill. When did they put the name? When did they do the name change? And did they do a family name change? Because they have done a family name change, and it's Hill. The latest running the show, I think he's pretty dirty.
Definitely. I mean, what's with all these churches and organisations coming up, and it turns out that the leader's always a pedophile? I mean, are they the head of the pedophile?
Yeah, that's what they get posted to.
Yeah,
next level of incompetence.
I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, on every
that's what I'm
group it seems.
If they didn't have people fighting behind the scenes all this time, they would still do your right to just grab a child and rape them in front of you. You know, so it's like we are doing the work where these people start to learn. And there are consequences, dickhead.
And then you've got these Christian groups supporting the false memory movement, which was started in Australia by Royal Commissioner James Wood. Because in his concluding report regarding the Royal Commission, he denied all the evidence that I've since uncovered and all the witnesses that I've since spoken to, many, many of them, and said, well, ritual abuse and, Satanism and Luciferianism and, child trafficking at this highest level and, anything to do with, military mind control, anything, doesn't exist. It's all the product of hysterical women. It's all women who come forward with these claims and overzealous therapists, and the amount of evidence he omitted. And then he quotes to support his report. He quotes a book written by Elizabeth Loftus. At that stage in the day, back in the mid-90s, Loftus had only written 1 book and done 1 or 2 research papers involving 30 female psychology students over in America, and whether or not they remember a car driving by on a video, and somehow you generalize that stupid little, with a N equals 30, study to people like Tim and I, to say that it's possible for us to fabricate these memories, or for someone to just suggest something and then we suddenly remember it because someone suggested it. They implant memories just through suggestion.
No,
It's impossible.
And who would have thought that the government investigating itself would basically use this to protect itself? I mean, in all the cases that people have come forward and they mention ritual abuse or mind control or child sex trafficking, at some point the government plays a big role in being involved in it or either enabling it somehow.
How do you do that when the Australian public voted the top FM into the top job?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not pulling your eyes over this one. I'm giving you the facts, right? This mug has walked out after the first spill, before the county's been taken, right? All excited, walks up to Bilby, we'll call him, right? And throws out his left hand. On national TV, only shown once on the ABC, as usual.
Freemason handshake.
Right, so what happened there is that he's actually got to a point now where every Freemason in Australia, or every FM in Australia, is absolutely horrified that he's just done that. And then you've got the international FMs who are just stupefied. Why do we let him get to that position where he's just a dickhead?
Because the number one rule
and then he actually heads off to England to do his I will speak to the ladies, talk, and I'll bring myself into some sort of alignment that I can talk to women, right? He's not doing that for that. The FMs are kicking his ass and going, you are a fuck up, and you need to do the penance. Go and talk to women.
Yeah.
A misogynist pig being told to go talk to women. Isn't that beautiful?
Because the number one rule we know is there is no fight club. There is no fight club. There is no fight club. Now that left-handed handshake indicates the left-handed path, which is what we refer to. Well, left-handed path is also to do with Luciferianism, because all human sacrifices are committed with the left hand within Luciferianism. So it's referred to as a left-handed path. Hence, the left-handed handshake is linked to that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well, that explains it a bit.
No,
but what we didn't say, there's lots of little tidbits like that. But what we didn't say was that Commissioner Wood, who was employed to do this job by the government to investigate this pedophile ring in Sydney that we were victims of, VIP pedophile ring, was actually a perpetrator and a member of that same pedophile ring. He raped Dean Henry as a child, and Dean Henry placed that, and other people have said this about Wood, but Dean Henry actually is a good example because he's got evidence. He's got his Royal Commission statement that was made in prison by the Royal Commissioners, and they typed out a transcript. Yeah. There's a reference number on it, etc., and that's been published.
That was the actual Royal Commission that started from the 91 trial for the police corruption, was also attached with my brother's statement about my father and his mates back then. He did that at 18, so that's close to 30 years ago now, right? So his story there, your story, all got mixed up in this bloody corruption inquiry that 4,000 police officers took amnesty for. They weren't good boys.
It was basically the whole entire Sydney police force.
So they just basically covered up the first Royal Commission into child abuse was pretty much squashed by all of that.
Yeah.
And that's when my brother started deteriorating a lot physically because he just couldn't get hurt.
Exactly. And I mean, the allegations against, James Wood, very interesting there. But, it wasn't just one potentially dodgy judge. It was the whole judiciary who were alleged to be a part of, the organization.
All the lawyers, a whole bunch of top lawyers, a whole bunch of judges. I mean, you got Murphy. Yes, Murphy was my perpetrator. Kirby has been named as picking up kids from Darlinghurst. It was all over the press because Bill Heffernan named him and then had to retract it.
That's why I got a seat with the New South Wales Crime Squad, because I said to him, check out the magistrates in the 90s who committed suicide. They're all connected.
Yeah, there's something to that. Yeah. And I mean, that's how you take over a country. Let's say if, they're doing it to blackmail the judiciary. I mean, people don't understand, the legal system, the judges, they form part of one of the branches of government. It's a very powerful organization. You control just one part of the government like that. you can take over the whole thing.
Well, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of coming back to the positive. The judiciary in my day wanted this. They wanted to smash him. Right? They'd been they just hadn't found someone to actually link up from the bottom up to actually get them to a point where they can go, we can do this time. And they did. You know, the judiciary, there's a lot of retirements happened in that judiciary before that Royal Commission was called. You know, so ultimately it comes back to understanding that for myself, as much as I've been through so much horror, I'm still capable of mentally balancing that up and understanding that, you know, there's positives here. I mean, I went through a court trial and nothing to do with my life. In the meantime, I'm living on a tropical island in which Sunday's flying in and out. You know?
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you know, where do you go when you actually kick sand into the government's face? What, are you going to run and fight? No, you go to Byron Bay and hang out with the others. So I think my story, I'd like to get that connected. You know, all the positives that actually came out of it from the work I was doing to actually keep alive and keep the voice being heard. So if I can
we really pioneered the work. You know, I guess no one had the courage to come forward and say what had happened to them and get involved with the police and the legal system, as well as if you've done. Fiona's done the same thing too.
And James Shanahan.
Exactly.
James Shanahan was one of
the plenty of them.
Yeah, this should be a blueprint for what people should do if you're a victim of VIP sex trafficking, ritual abuse, or mind control on our level. Tell everyone. Go to the police. You know, they're not.
Yeah, people leave.
Go public. Name names. Go public. Name names.
Well, I've got friends popping up now from the release of the Alan Jones article last week, and they're popping up. But now I need them, right? They're popping up because I don't go into people's lives unless I feel like I can protect you. Right, so separation is a lot easier for me to do than trying to be with everybody to protect them. Okay, so I played that understanding. My friends know that they haven't seen me for years at times, right? But they love me. They're my fingers, and you know, as someone who's been through this, I'm rapt to know that I've got a house to go to anywhere I like with those people.
Safety.
And I'm just safe, right?
Because this is it.
You know, to help. Yeah, sorry, Fiona, you go on.
Oh, I'm just saying that really you're living almost on the run, aren't you, sort of thing, from these people.
Yeah, I've got 2 addresses.
You know, like he's...
I paid 2 lots.
Like when I somehow contacted you, didn't I, Tim? And then I think it was only within a week or something, I get a phone call, and you were miles and miles and miles away. And then I get a phone call all of a sudden, and it's like, it's Tim, I'm here. Let's meet up, you know. And he was suddenly like, you know, down my way, and that's how he works. You don't know where he is. He just pops up out of the bushes.
Well, I'm so glad you could be here.
I've been doing this for 15 years, mate. I've had a lot of practice. I know. I have a lot of bush campsites too. That they won't ever find.
Well, as long as you're safe and you know how to take care of yourself more than anyone.
Eventually, as someone's been through this, you need to have that. You need to have that concept that you're capable of achieving safe places.
Whereas I've had to stay put because I've got, you know, a couple of kids that I've had to try and maintain some sort of stability, and that's I haven't been. Well, I've had to run a lot of times, but you know, I'm just tired of running now, and.
And that's the thing. Victims don't need to run anywhere. I mean, they should always be careful with who they name if they're not 100% sure. You guys are 100% sure.
Oh,
but
we know.
When you come out, you know, do seek help. I mean, our systems are failing, and you know, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. The famous quote, you know, and that should be taken on board here because every Royal Commission has failed. Every legal inquiry has failed. Every police investigation is ultimately doomed because there's someone at the top, like a Freeman.
Oh, well, it's like it's Steve.
But that's the beauty. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to go to court. One thing I'm allowed to go to court with, I've got mental health issues, right?
Mm.
Yeah. And
my evidence is staunch until that point.
Yeah.
Guess what? They can't take me to court either.
Yeah.
or I'll teach you all this. Anyone pulls you into a court and you don't think this is a fair situation, you name your pedophiles every time you ask the question, and I'll guarantee you, your court case will finish.
But you have
Yeah,
to.
this is-
I think it's the ethical thing to do if you firmly believe and know that you're a victim.
Well, what do
and
you
name
do?
it, because there's nothing else that will get anything done.
Nothing else is
So you
working.
get charged with contempt, but that's all right. That keeps the juice going.
We're we've resorted to doing this because the police are not helping us. I haven't heard from my detectives for months and months now about my case. You know, they've raided the house that my step grandparents abused me in, and people were murdered in, all this sort of thing. But they didn't do a thorough job of that. The neighbours came over and told them, oh, you need to look at this address. I've witnessed what this woman said here, here, and here. But have they done a good enough job? Well, the immediate detective in charge is honest, a good cop, and then I find out the one up the top who's responsible for the whole case turns out is writing dodgy reports that keep kids in housed with pedophiles and being raped for their last 4 years, and innocent parents are losing their kids to the system, the family court system, etc., etc. So, and I'm just waiting for a report to come out from Sutherland detectives going, oh no, we can't do this because Fiona's, I don't know, in the past had PTSD, even though I'm integrated now and my symptoms are very mild compared to most victims. And Fiona, what is it? Because more recently, not in the earlier part of my journey, most recently there was EMDR used. And then I read Tim's, the reasons why the police dropped the case, the charges against Jones and all his cronies, is because, Tim had EMDR. Now, EMDR actually works. It actually works. Yeah. But because Tim had it, so what's going to happen to my case? Exactly. I was reading my future email.
This is the CIA's false memory program out again. It just stuffs everything up,
Yeah. You ask anybody who's actually managed to find a therapy technique,
that
and
works.
if you want to understand if that you want to understand if that is actually a functional therapy for you, there's only one answer. And the person will come back and go, I feel relief. That amazing, shut the head up, I've actually had a win. I don't need to keep doing loops or shatters or jumbles over this anymore, It's just that understanding of the presence of madness and trying to have your truth be heard, to move into a point of, it's been heard, people accept it, I get relief. And you really want people like myself having relief than being dysfunctional from PTS symptoms kicking in and every now and then. So that's therapy.
Speaking of pain, Tim's been doing this interview having just had a tooth removed from an abscess yesterday, and all his,
I'm sort of, I used to be symmetrical. I now have a what would you say, an inflated right side of myself.
You're soldiering on, Tim. You're doing a bloody great job, and
Go to comedy, Steve. That's my deal. That's why I'm taking my relief.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to chuck myself on a cruise ship, and I'll tell them all now. It'll be in October on a comedy cruise, so if you want to throw me off, I'll be there. Now that just diffuses it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're going to come anywhere near me now because I told them where I'm going to be.
I mean, all these people who do these things to people like you, Tim, and Fiona, they're just pathetic. I mean, it's horrible what they did, but I mean, there's something so wrong and so pathetic about it.
So mean
that we need to laugh at them.
They're so mean and male. You know why? Yeah. Because every one of them that I've ever found out or dealt with, or from myself or others, they're missing one part of their human structure.
Exactly.
Now, I put the human structure down to mind, body, soul, sexuality, because I don't give the church rights over sexuality. Everyone is born with those individual chemical rights. The chemistry dictates those things. Every mere male has not hurt his body hard enough, in my understanding, to actually call himself a man. And they haven't got a spirit. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Whereas I rock on believing that, you know, whatever my understanding of, because I went through so much abuse with religion, and this is a bit of a heads up for those out there who's been through that and having a real tussle trying to understand why I want to put myself in unsafe churches and unsafe places. That, you know, where are we?
Well, you were talking about body parts, and I started thinking about what they all have in common is a very small penis. Usually.
Well, probably that too. But
Bob, I can see the headlines. Bob Hawke has tiny penis. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not connected to that.
Well, the
That's
thing
twice
I
I've
found-
said that to this interview. What are you doing?
The thing I found with these people is that they were the losers in high school. They sucked at everything. No one liked them. And they just resorted to being cunts their whole life. To get ahead.
And they thought they were taught to be bullies all the way through. What's going on?
I mean, they're just shit people. And they suck at life.
You're getting it. But they're shit people because they've never been able to maintain an actual capacity to find out what they can achieve at each of those levels. They just never done it.
Yeah. They
So,
don't give
from this
the
point
people
on,
a chance.
I pass a mere man.
There's nothing special about
That's
them.
it.
They are fucking...
And if you're working in an office and haven't got a hard day pushing your body, well, go and join a gym because people are going to watch you.
Some of my past like to dress up in women's clothing, so I don't know what that is.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what they are. And my father was definitely a mere male. So, you know, anyone who wants to be friends with mere males, you're going to get called mere males. The FMs are banding together. Well, you know. So this is the big thing about the FM, is that you actually have to approach these people and ask them. If he's bullying you at work, or the C word, I love the C word on women, that just puts women right back in their spot. All right? If that's happened in your past, it's time. Go to the boss and go, you really want to be promoting this person who protects us?
Well, I don't know how Bill Shorten gets away with raping.
Hey, I'm not in that.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely think Bill Shorten did something very wrong to that woman, Kathy.
Oh,
He
look, we get out there, we get rid of the popular
This
vote.
guy nearly became Prime Minister.
Listen to me, I've got the answer. Get rid of the popular vote and you vote people on an academic level. We get professors and associate professors into the cabinet that actually know their job and their alignment.
Now, hang on, Tim. What, you mean like Paul Wilson, who's up on multiple pedophile charges? Professor of criminology.
I don't go for that. That's not. Who's Paul Wilson anyway? Paul Wilson's a cop, isn't he?
No, Paul
Dirty
Wilson.
cop?
No, Paul Wilson is the head of criminology and forensic psychology at Bond University.
Oh, he's a cop?
No, criminologist. He was replaced by a cop.
So he's a professional. He's a
Yeah,
professor.
a lot of these academics are pedos.
I don't care.
Oh,
I just have to tell you, we have
You-
to
you
change
want
the
them in-
system. That's my understanding.
yeah. I think we should run for parliament, Tim.
Seriously, if we're going to swamp down with all this sort of thing where it's going, you know, this person, this person, this person, this person, I don't want nothing to do with it. I want to deal with my three.
Yeah.
I'm sick of fucking names coming in left, right, and centre.
5.
They're dead. 2 are dead.
Oh, yeah, right.
They're under surface. All right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be caught up in that. I can't afford to.
Yeah.
All my life, I've been credible. All my life, what I've said has had evidential fucking backup.
Yeah.
All right? So I understand that that's part of what you feel, but I am, to be honest with you, have no connection to the evidence of that.
Oh, yeah.
I've found my evidence. That's why I can say these individuals are doing this. All right? So I need, you know, we need to pull back a wee bit and just go, hang on, you know. Not the fact that they haven't done it, and not the fact that we don't need to expose it, but I'm living with an understanding that I'm dealing with 3. And once they're gone, I'm going to do comedy and cruising. I'm going to have a life. Right? If you want to bring out 20 people after that, that's fine. But let's just focus on
20? Oh, we've got
if
more
I
than
can
20.
get a result here, you can get a result with the 20. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
all
right.
right?
Yeah.
So we put our energy only into these 3 names, 3 passes. 1, 2, 3. And we go from there. I count for 10 years for nothing. You know? So They gave me a pension. I felt guilty about it. I spent that on people who were abused. I ran around the country telling people, get a testimony. I don't know. I don't know why I'm being engaged into this, but every person I'm finding out that wants to talk to the abuse story to me, get testimonies. And that's what got us a Royal Commission. We were safe because I had 10 people who knew my story and they just written a testimony going, get the pass. Stop mucking around. So, my world, I get bounced from the Royal Commission straight to the New South Wales sex crime unit. So none of this can come out until now.
And you reckon Gordon Moyes committed suicide because you?
I just say he deceased himself. I don't know how he did it.
Oh, well, deceased himself.
Well, I'm
But
going to be evidential, and I think we all need to say words that actually prove that what you said is true.
So, by coincidence, Tim goes to the police, makes his testimony, and then suddenly Gordon Moyes is found dead.
Oh, and that's just a coincidence. It's the same situation with Anthony Kidman. You know?
No, it's not a coincidence. He deceased himself because my energy was coming.
It's like Anthony Kidman was dead within about 6 weeks.
Just die of natural causes.
I remember back 16 years ago and read the diaries about how good I was at what I did.
Anthony Kidman fell off the balcony in Singapore. No, wait, he fell down the stairs. No, wait, he had a heart attack.
Oh, hang on, ain't he supposed to kill himself in front of and the younger daughter, wasn't it? On the table?
Oh.
No one really.
Anyway, when it comes to Anthony Kidman, I will say this. Each time I was raped and brought into the area prior to going onto the street, which is always found a little bit of a hallway and there was a little room there was always someone, but see, I'm small, I'm tiny. I'm tiny even when I'm fucking 14, you know, I'm 4'11" in year 10. I'm tiny. They're picked on all the time. I'm a good runner. So, yeah, where were we?
Every time you were something about a hall, Anthony Kidman.
Yeah, any time I went into those places, I was on my face on LSD. They gave me a sweaty, and they laced it with LSD. Went into the room. Black and white squares, course of the LSD turned into kaleidoscope of colours. And this is where Tim's special, right? Because I had an angel in the corner. Now, I don't know if you want to understand it this way, but a child needed protection from all these fucking crazy men around him. The angel was there. And that's my story. Every time. I went straight to the angel, my body went through whatever it went through, my mind didn't accept that it actually had happened, and I walked out in the sun and I was a special boy again because I wasn't saying Freemasons out of turn.
You were saying something about Kidman though, there.
Well, like I say, everybody who did this sort of regards to mind control and hypnosis before you went out to the real world, well, to me, it was a tall, skinny bloke. So that's all I can say, right? And if that's a description of Antonio Kidman, good luck to him. Because I'm totally honest, and the only people I actually know that did these things is because I have had reactions which have sent me dysfunctional.
If you see them, you're triggered by them. Is that what you're saying?
That's the difference of knowing from memory. Memory is one aspect. It's your eyes and what it sees. If you want to go and fight these people and understand who they are, you have to ask your mind to let you know what information happened there. Now, your mind has scope of everything. And that's why it's so difficult to unscatter it all, because your mind is not your memory, and your mind will always overpower your memory, but your memory is the one they're going to take to court.
And that's the one they don't want coming up, your memory.
Well, it's written. Memory's useless. They know it. The past know it.
They've tried so long.
They know it's a useless defence.
I've got a vague look. I don't.
It's your mind. It's your reactions. It's what happens to you subconsciously that sends you into a conscious world, which is when you are functional, you become dysfunctional, and anybody sees that can witness it and dog it. So now we're getting logged. Now, you're going to have a problem with psychiatrists, you're going to have a problem with psychologists, you're going to have a problem with everybody because they've just been conditioned to understand we have to get their memory to be able to expose the truth. It's never going to happen. Not if you've been brainwashed and got LSD. Who's going to believe you're going to memory when you've been smashed on LSD all your life?
Yeah, yeah.
So Tim, I've got
So let's go with reaction. Now, my first reaction that really messed my world up was Roger Clipston. Okay, on news. Now, when I saw Roger Clipston on the news, my little brain saw a monster. And I just went, I'm in guard duty, I'm dressed for guard over the west. All right, regular thing Tim gets to do. Okay. Am I supposed to go to a housewarming party? Right, it's my housewarming party, I'm on guard duty. Okay, fine. You know, suck of the sea, wear it. Da 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 da. He's come on, the monster head's come on. I've taken the duty vehicle with the largest keyring you've ever seen, of all weapons and explosives in the armoury of the Western Australian coastline.
The nuclear bombs.
And I turned up to the party going, and they're all my senior instructors. They're all looking at me like, what are you doing, dude? You're in full dress uniform, and now you're chatting to, the psych nurse in the spa. And I'm going, and they wouldn't berate me because they had their women there, and they honour their women in that sort of thing. Just pretty scary when they go off. So the phone berated me, and I stepped out, came back, and because I had a mate who actually went through Christian Brothers, we didn't know this about ourselves, but we knew that there was a safe place to be with each other. He was 10 years senior to me. He covered my ass. I'm getting called in 3 days later to get a bollocking about turning up to the party, and I'm going to clue what they're talking about. Now that's reaction. Right. John Laws destroyed my fucking counter-terrorist career. MP5, gauge, bang, bang, everyone shoots here. A lot better than the Link Cafe, I can tell you. Who knows how to shoot where I am? I'm probably the one who's struggling right now. So Laws's voice comes on the radio, right? And I've just done a complete 180-degree turn, full loaded weapon, pointing at the safety officer. And he's going, hey, Tim, lower your weapon. Put your safety catch on. I can't put my safety catch on. I'm gone bipolar. My head has got that fried from hearing that voice that I can't work out which is up or down.
That's not bipolar. That's,
it is bipolar.
That's dissociative, isn't
no,
it?
Bipolar. Bipolar's left and right, up and down.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't actually got to an understanding of it. But if you live with it, you know it's PTSD, you know bipolar. PTSD is black and white to grey. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
All right, so Jones came on the radio, and where was I? I was on sentry duty. No, I wasn't. I was putting mortars up. And, these individuals seem to get national airways for some reason. Right? His voice has come up, or conversation about him could be just enough as well. So here I am. I mean, it's the elite of the elite putting up mortars. It's an additional skill. You don't get taught that, unless you go to an infantry battalion. So I'm putting up mortars, but I'm behaving like a 5-year-old because the smell of the powder bags give me more interest in the actual fucking how dangerous it is if you put your fucking head out of the mortar tube, So they picked that up off the sentry duty. So all the way, my reactions as such were documented by my father in the future, which I read, but also, where's my officers? Where's my protection for my officers? When are they going to get me some mental help if I'm pointing my fucking weapon at the range safety officer? Yeah. How much more do you need? So I didn't get any mental health there either. So with the Defence Abuse Tribunal, they probably won't call me because I want to have a crack at all of that.
And that's coming up soon, is it? The Defence Abuse Tribunal?
Well, I was raped in the cadets, so they're going to call me for that. So I'm going to have to push to get into abuse and that. Well, I had the Army. This is another thing. I had the Army, in its officers' world, decide they would send a lieutenant from Human Resources or whatever, Army people planning or whatever, and tell me I've got to get out of the Army. Who the fuck are you? You're a fucking...
Admin tech.
You're a lieutenant. What the fuck are you? I go, oh, I only listen to a captain. I don't listen to them much. You know? So, it's like, but that was my role. That's been the journey. See, they wanted me out then because they had already lined up for the criminal record and they had all the resources there, but I fucked them up. And I always fuck them up for resources. You know?
Now, what people don't know is you were actually in the cadets from a very young age, weren't you?
Yeah,
You were basically primed for the military.
Yeah, I was their boy.
Like I said, I'd be in the firm if they liked me.
What age? Yeah.
If I'd forgotten everything, I'd be in the firm.
Tim, what age did you begin in the cadets?
I started out at. I joined high school pretty early, so 12, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So 12, 13 was my time with Dave Wallace. He's been binned and dead now. But I actually protected a young lad. Well, I spoke to a mate that I'm in training. I'm in training as well. You know, do I have the push to tell this person that this is unsafe for this young bloke over here? Right? So I just told me, mate, he is fucking marched straight into the fucking guard room. And so it has to be documented, you know? That's why it's like, they can't find this stuff. And I go, why? It fucking happened.
And then how old were you when you entered the army?
I joined the army at 18. Yeah. Yeah.
And how long were you in the SAS?
Over the West?
Yeah.
6 years.
From at what age?
Well, the last year was completely redundant because I found myself from 22 to 27, and apart from the stuff I told you, the reactions I'm having, my mind reactions, not my memory reactions, my mind reactions that this person is fucking unsafe. You know, it's simple. That's the telltale. That's what you want in evidence. That's your court. Because if you saw me do a flippy thing now, you can say he did a flippy thing on this date. Da 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 da. That's our evidence back to these people, and they won't let us have it. You know why? Because they have to scrutinise Moyes' bloody legislation, and I'm pretty sure they just want that to sort of fade away.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
It's like that song, There's a Hole in the Bucket. It goes in a big circle, always comes back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just say that again.
All right,
Just say it again. You can cut it.
Ralph Harris, in his day, had a television show where he used to do his art, but he also had a mascot who was the same size bear as Humphrey B. Bear. Now, Humphrey B. Bear had the hat and the actual the vest, colourful vest, and he was a black bear, you know, black, dark brown colour, right? Harris had Coogee Bear, named after the suburb then where he lived, or whatever. And I have a memory of being put into a room where the Coogee Bear costume is discarded and lying over there, and you know, I'm getting attacked. Now, my brother was taken away separate to me to that situation with Harris, right, with the Coogee Bear man. Okay, so he actually used to be avid, like I say, watched Humphrey Bear, you know, all I did, you know, avid watcher. Came on that morning and he just bolted to the corner. I couldn't fix him. You know, I was 9 years old, but he's 7, you know, so I couldn't fix him. So I actually went and got his little blankie when he was a kid, you know, mum's kid, those things. I gave him that, you know, and that settled him down. But we didn't talk about it. And I know now why we didn't talk about it, because I just discovered that I went through that as well. He was protecting me from the trigger because he knew I didn't remember. And he's got the brain damage, unfortunately, because he did remember. He's like Fiona. No dissociation, just fucking deal with it. Memorise it, fucking overwhelmed, da-da-da-da. In John's world, well, the therapy and the medication he gave him, that shrunk his fucking brain. So, you know, as much as we have a giggle about these things, there's so many fucking tragedies.
Oh, yeah.
And that was Channel 7 Studios, you said?
Yeah, that's where well, that was where I would have gone through Clemson before that.
And you said something interesting, we were saying something interesting about the detention centre situation with little Dylan who was, abused in the Northern Territory Detention Centre from, age of 10. You were saying before, and we said in unison that, these kids, if you want to help these kids, first you find out who was the first person who abused them, to put them into that situation.
Yeah.
Hey?
And if you've been that person, they don't have to go to court. The child just needs to see that person incarcerated. And you just do that in another building nearby, so I can spit at them. I do let the boys spit at these people called putts. Anyway.
There you go.